So, hello everyone. Thank you for coming back for another interview. My name is Hannah.
Hello, my name is Jenna, and today we have another guest music therapist with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Nancy, and I'm an old music therapist.
Awesome. Nancy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you currently working? What are you doing in the world of music therapy?
I am working in the Buffalo Public School System. I work in a separate program that meets the needs of individuals who right now are in the 18 to 21-year-old category. They are in a program that focuses on functional learning, community learning, and vocational training. We try to provide linkages once they graduate from our program into some sort of work-oriented project, or at least with a caseworker who can kind of assist them once they finish. Everything is functional. The definition of our program technically is an IQ of 50 or less. We do have some that are a little higher than that, but and do very well. We meet the needs mostly of developmentally disabled. We have individuals on the autistic spectrum and some with some physical disabilities, but nothing that's too involved.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you found out about music therapy? What inspired you to start this profession?
So I am a music educator turned music therapist. I did my undergraduate work as a music teacher wannabe, and I graduated and I was struggling with finding full-time work. And my mother-in-law at the time was a music therapist and said, "Hey, you should check this out. I think it'd be really great for you." And she was working down at Fredonia at the time. And so I went, okay, it's always good to expand, make myself more marketable. And so I started working down at in the music therapy program. I also did my master's in music education at the same time. I discovered in my transition from educator to therapist that both have equally assisted me to be better as a music therapist and as a music teacher. But my first love is music therapy. So it was a great fit for me.
So, just to make sure, you did your master's at Fredonia while you were teaching in music
Yeah, I did
therapy?
my master's in music education along with my music therapy certification. It was a couple of years after I finished my undergraduate work. I think I took a year off and then started right in on my master's. So I did both, and I had an assistantship down there, so that made it really awesome.
When you were going through that program, sort of dual with education and therapy, what did you really enjoy about that experience? And what was something that, if you could go back, you would change or would like to see grow?
That was a while ago. I have to think about it. Here's going to be one of these awkward pauses. I loved everything about it, and I loved going to school. If I could have changed something, maybe it would have been my adult placement as a clinical student. It didn't work really well, and it was not the positive. I mean, it was okay. It just wasn't really awesome. Everything was fine. My internship was good, but my internship supervisor left halfway through to take another position. So it was a little on my own. But having experience as a music educator and teaching for 3 or 4 years before I actually finished, I was teaching part-time while I was doing my master's too. And like I felt pretty confident going in, like I had some opportunities. So I was okay. But I don't think there's much that I would have changed. It was all good. And I think that my attitude about things is to try to find the nugget of gold in the morass of whatever it is that you're involved in, and finding the good piece of whatever it is that maybe isn't working out so well.
So looking back, still kind of in that same time period, back on internship, where did you go to internship? How was that process of applying and finding an internship? And what areas did you really grow in as a young professional during that time?
My internship was at West Seneca Developmental Center. And I believe that the individual who started the internship, I was her first intern. There was another intern who started 3 months after I did. And as I said, and then so at the time, my mother-in-law was also working there part-time. So she kind of ended up taking over some of the supervisory things. But I think we were the only two interns because Sue moved on and she was doing other things. So it was a new internship, which I think was probably not the greatest. We kind of lost that supervisory thing. I don't know how the other intern fared after I left. I think I did okay. And I think one of the things that assisted me was the fact that I had background in teaching. So I felt pretty confident in front of a group. Yeah, it was okay. What did I mean, I learned a lot. I struggled because I started out as a music teacher, and Connie Williford kept saying, you're putting your music teacher hat on, you need to put your music therapist hat on. So I struggled with that shift in the philosophy of music therapy versus the philosophy of music education. And so I think one of the things that really assisted me being in that, very in deep environment of working as a music therapist, working with developmentally disabled. And in many cases, they were struggling. So they were in the developmental center was a separate entity. Now that has been disbanded all out into group homes, but there are group homes that are much more, with more challenging individuals. But I had all of that in that environment. And so that was a good learning experience. Yeah, I guess just doing it, doing the work.
Diving in off the deep end.
Yeah, right. Without a life preserver.
Yeah. As you kind of finished up internship and prepared to take the CBMT exam, what was your experience with it? Was it something where you studied a lot, or were kind of just winging it as you went along?
I'm a studier. I should also say that when I started my master's program at Fredonia, I had gotten married. I also got pregnant. So I had a baby while I was working on my master's. And in the middle of my internship, found out I was expecting another little guy. So there was a lot going on. And but I studied, and I also made sure that I took my exam as quickly as possible after I finished all of my stuff, so that all that stuff that I have now forgotten would be in my brain. I think we did practice exams, but I think they were handwritten. Like you didn't get to go online and do them, like you probably are able to now, but did some of those things. And I also think the exam was different too. I think that music therapy has expanded so much since I graduated and took the exam. There's so much more out there. To me, thinking about all that stuff seems very overwhelming, but yeah, I was successful right off the bat, had no issues, but I am a pretty decent test taker too.
What is some advice that you would have to somebody who's preparing for the exam?
I know right now, as my being a internship supervisor for the first time, that I am encouraging them to read the books and go over the information and take the exam. Don't wait, get it over with as soon as you can, so that that stuff is there. And for you guys to take those practice exams, to get that information and see where you're at, what you need to work on. But just one of the things I'm asking is for which I did not do as a music therapy student, reading journal articles. I did it for my assignments and things, but that's part of my internship program, is having reading journal articles, so that you've got what's happening in what somewhat in what you're interested, but also to keep up with what kinds of changes there are, the methodologies and all of that that have manifested themselves over the years. So just study, just review, lots of notes.
What do you find is most helpful to you in terms of continuing education credits over the years? Is it something where you prefer doing lots of reading or going to conferences or supervising, like you had said?
So my thought process has shifted over the years. Being a resident in the Buffalo area, Fredonia did not provide a lot of opportunities for continuing education because they have a graduate program, which is helpful. So that it was a struggle. Continuing education was a struggle. So for a while it was conferences. My best way of doing it was trying to find a graduate course. And I think music therapy has done some nice things in expanding the things that you can study. So I took some counseling things and those things more in the psychology aspect that I knew would create my CEUs for music therapy too, because I could get that done. The other thing is it was more limited, many years ago. And now I think they've also expanded what you can do. So I found myself in my last cycle without enough credits and for various reasons. And I was going to drop my CBMT because I don't need it for my job because technically I'm a music educator in the public schools, even though I consider myself to be primarily a music therapist. But then I went back in and I looked at the changes and I was able to do some things to make it happen. So I also think that taking clinical students and now interns is a great way also. But one of the things that they did was, take the things that you've written, write your songs down. And that was how I ended up getting half of my credits because I was really low. But by doing 10 songs, writing how I used them, what the methodology was, and I actually had to perform them, but it was interesting. But that was a good resource of, and so I think that that's good. I think that music therapy, the CBMT has done some really positive things. And now I understand that they're going to be going to a more virtual format for local conferences, which might make it a little easier. It got to the point where conferences were not worth my money. It was a lot of money and I wasn't getting what I needed credit wise. So that was why I sort of went the graduate route and graduate classes. But I think there's a lot of ways that you can do CEUs now.
So being in your unique position of a music educator world combined with a music therapy world, can you talk about kind of what theoretical orientations you bring from music therapy? How does that influence music education and vice versa? How does music education influence your music therapy work as well?
So I think what I bring from music education is if I were going to define myself as a music therapist, I think I'm a cognitive behavioralist. I work on that level, and within the academic world, it seems to work. What I think that I had from music education was a great musical foundation and ways to teach things or work with things that were not ever touched on, ways to teach rhythm, ways to do, which allowed me to be very creative in what I did with music therapy. And even though we would work on rhythm, being able to play rhythms or being able to identify eighth notes and quarter notes and half notes was not my goal. It gave me a resource to work with rhythms and teach it without really wanting them to know what it was, but to give me resources for experiences within the music therapy world. And music education, I also taught me a lot about classroom management. So I've always worked in a small group setting between 8 and 12 students. Things have changed in the last couple of years since getting back from COVID, but managing them, I learned a lot of that. And I don't think that was something that I got from music therapy and my coursework in music therapy. Was just some of those techniques in really managing the room when things were going a little out, wonky. Yeah, I don't know, they're hand in hand. And I guess I don't know how it would be if I were one or the other. Like I know what I was as a music teacher before I became a therapist, but I don't know how I would be if I had just been a music therapist and how those things would work. And I know I had an experience within my career where I was set in an environment that was bad. It's just, I was having a very difficult time. I was in a really rough situation in terms of the expectations of what they wanted me to do. And it was my music education and going back to, and I really had to look at, behavior modification, how can I get this group under control? And I really needed to put my music educator hat on for that. Yeah, they definitely, one hand has washed the other, but I would definitely say that my primary focus is music therapy. I just pull from music education to accomplish what I want to.
In terms of supervision with students and with interns, what is your style of supervising them? And also over the years as a supervisee of receiving supervision, what do you find is most helpful for you?
Receiving supervision has been a very long time, and I didn't have what I provide to my students, which is somebody who's there all the time. So it's probably important that I'm kind of a self-starter, self-motivator, because without that, I might have struggled a lot more. I do think that in my program, while with clinical students, I kind of throw them to the wolves and just say, do a hello song, Jenny, you know that. And then whenever you're comfortable, just start and you can take over. And I have a wonderful environment because I'm there. I can support as much as needed, but I tend to sit back and give them the opportunity to really fly. And that's what I say. This is an opportunity for you to fly and test your wings and see what you can do as a music therapist, because that is what you're going to do as an intern. In my internship now, as I'm looking into what it means to be a supervisor of an intern full-time, sitting back and allowing that individual to do a whole lot more observation and watch me work. So, where they don't get that as a clinical student, I'm hoping to provide more of that as a supervisor of an intern. What I think would have, I don't know what would have helped me. I don't know if I struggled. I think I was okay. I did okay. And I remember the one negative comment that I will remember out my whole life is that I'm a very creative, kind of crafty person. And the supervisor who ended up finishing my internship said, would have liked to have seen you bring more creative things into your sessions. And like, okay. But that was like, I was like, wow, hey. But I have done a lot of that. I was just showing Jules today some of the things that I've done, how we've written music by doing little spinning boards with rhythm patterns and notes and all that stuff. And just mixing movement and those kinds of things along with other types of music experiences.
For being your supervisee, and you had like binders and things for us to go through that were like all of these great resources to look at, which was super helpful. And I also remember that of it being very open-ended and very flexible for us to just really step in and start doing stuff, which was nice. I think especially at the point in our college years that we were being in like that final practicum of just really having that space to just take over and
I'm not a big micromanager. And there'd be times I'd look at a session and I'd think, maybe, but you know what? You don't know what's going to work until it tries. And I'm there to help if something starts to fall apart. But, even being online, you did a wonderful job, Jenna. So, yeah. And the other thing that I tell the students, and Jules was funny because he just said to me, he goes, well, so all your resources, can I have them? And I said, absolutely. We're here to share, because when you guys come in, I feel free to take anything you bring in, copy it, paste it, change it, modify it. And so I think that's the way we become better therapists, if we can share what our ideas and our, and collaborate. I don't have a copyright on anything I do. And, I've borrowed and modified things from my students for years. So yeah,
what do you feel like, as you reflect on interns and students, something that they've taught you?
Oh, so one of my favorite things about having the clinical students is what they bring to the table and the things that I can soak up. So I couldn't really name their energy, their ideas, the creativity that they bring. I know when we were more virtual and stuff, slideshows and stuff, like I have every slideshow that you ever shared with me. I still have them. I can still access them. Every once in a while I go back and look at it and go, oh yeah, I'm going to take that one out. And, so the technology piece, there's so much, and the new ideas. I think that's the wonderful thing about allowing my clinical students to just do their thing, is they have to do it. So they bring stuff, and, like I said, I just take those nuggets and store them for when I want to pull them out myself.
Can you speak a little bit about job searching? How did you find a first job? What was a non-negotiable for you? This is really what you were looking for? And how do you, especially searching early on in jobs, how do you say these are things that maybe I will look for down the road? This is something I'm willing to sacrifice right now. These are things I really need for this position.
Right. I think for me, I was raising a family, so I knew I didn't want anything full time. So I began in nursing home at Kenmore Mercy, and I loved it. I was getting to the point where I had the flexibility in my home life to be able to do some new things. And so they had a daycare center on site, and I wanted to do an intergenerational program and bring the kids from the daycare over. I wanted to work with the kids with the daycare, then bring them over and do something with the elderly folks in the nursing home. And it was in a hospital setting. So I was working on that. I had a whole proposal. I had some energy, and they were going to move forward with it. But at the same time, they were building a new facility, and I was brought into the office and told, we can't afford you. And so while I had done all this stuff, so I had my first and lost my job. And then from there, I went to Autistic Services, and I worked there for a while. And that's where I thought I would be, because it was good. It was part-time. I had little guy at home, and he was 3. I went to a conference, and I had received a call in August, from Buffalo Schools saying, would you come and interview with us? We've got a position for somebody who's got your skill set, which is music education, music therapy. And so I was like, I was getting to the point in my life where maybe full-time work was going to be beneficial for my family. So I was like, okay, I'll go in and interview. And I kind of took over and said, I think the best thing I can share about music therapy is how it works. I led the 2 people in the interview, which was the principal and the chairperson of the music education department, through a mini music therapy session, from hello song to, movement to everything. And then I packed up my stuff and I was like, okay, goodbye, and they asked a few questions, and, it was easy because I wasn't vested in it, but it was a good thing, and then they called me and said, hey, you got the job. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I take it. And it was, God works in mysterious ways, and that's how he showed up for me. So, and I've been there ever since. And I've done some private practice things in the middle of all of that. It was a great move, and I have loved it. I still love it. And I'm not jaded. I'm not tired. It's been great. And I liked working with students with disabilities. That was a good match for me. I didn't mind working with, I liked working with the elderly. My biggest struggle as a music therapist has been working with individuals with a psychiatric diagnosis or a mental health concern. And I did do that as part of in Buffalo for a while. And it was okay. But I don't think that I was prepared. And that was my adult placement that I talked about. That wasn't really good. That was in a psychiatric setting with older adults. It was, not good. So I think that's why in my training, I never had a good solid, psych foundation and training. So it wasn't ever anything I wanted to do, but I found my niche. So
I kind of feel like they don't talk about that much in education, that people oftentimes do have a specific thing they like to do, but that also means that there could be like a certain place that you really just don't want to work.
Right. And I think sometimes when you graduate, you want to keep everything open. I appreciate when my students, like I usually will ask my clinical students, so where do you think you want to work? And right now it seems like they're struggling finding internship places. And so they may be in an internship that doesn't necessarily meet their needs, or it's not really where they want to be, and I've had a couple of them say, I never ever thought I'd want to work with individuals with disabilities. I never thought I want, and they're like, but after being here, I feel like I could do this. That's a benefit. But I think it's important. But I think when you get out and you're looking for internship sites, and then you're looking for a job, you just want to work. And the job market, I just with Jules went onto the AMT website and looked at job opportunities. And there's tons of them. And my general impression of music therapy is that at starting, it's not it's tough salary wise, to afford as a beginning music therapist. But some of them that I found looking at online, I'm thinking, okay, that salary is something I could work with if I were starting out, it's not that bad. So made me feel a little bit better about the compensation packages for music therapists who are coming out of, their internships and looking for jobs. So I feel the opportunities are there. And I think that I can say that because of the little bit of research that I did. So, and there's job boards, which are great. And the other thing I made Jules join was like a music therapy Facebook page or something, so that you can network with people and see what's going on. I have to ask him if he did that yet. But I mean, I found that and I thought, that was a neat thing. But he did say to me today that all of his co-students have not started their internships yet. They don't start till September. So he doesn't have anybody to really collaborate with right now. But I think when I go tomorrow, I'll have to mention the Facebook page just to see. But I do know they post jobs on there. And so I think it's just the Western New York Music Therapy. So, but it's good that there are those types of online things. So technology has got some benefits to it.
Can you share a little bit, since you've been at this program for so long, how have you seen it grown over the years? What have been the changes? How have you changed as a professional as well?
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, when I started, I think I used to see, so the program itself is it's called a community-based program. So that a lot of the learning takes place in the community. And from the start of the program in elementary school, teachers are taking their students out into the community to learn on a practical basis how to cross the street, how to go, how to walk, on the sidewalk and go into a store and shop, but also other experiences that they can provide for the students. Then it becomes a little bit more practical training on how to ride the bus and how to get to different places that you might need to during the, your lifespan. When I first saw them, the little ones would come to me, and I worked with the 18 to 21-year-olds. So I was doing music therapy for very little ones and then music therapy for 18 to 21-year-olds. So it was a big spread. Then we built an addition to the school. And so I had a little nicer space to work in. And at that point, then I was doing a chorus and, so that was fun. And that was stasis for a while. And then things shifted and, so the little ones stopped coming to me and I was going to them. And that was wonderful because I got out of the building. I got out of my concrete closet office and, I loved working with the little ones. And then I was like developing all of this, like, okay, so I was seeing middle school and the program was much smaller. Our program has grown. So I was seeing just about all of the students and I'm thinking, so I have all these pages I did years ago about, okay, what do I want for, kindergarten to second grade? These are the goals of the things that I think that we should be working on. And then, so I would have this progression so that when they came to me as 18 to 21-year-olds, like there was stuff that I could do because they had this foundation, a music foundation and a therapeutic foundation. And then everything kind of fell apart. Then I was just seeing little ones. The program got bigger. Some, then they didn't want to pay for transportation. So things have shifted. And, so then I was doing just OTC in Western New York Day Treatment. And I wasn't seeing any of the little ones. Then Western New York Day Treatment, which was the program for the kids with mental illnesses, that disappeared. So then I was going back and seeing the little ones again. And then COVID hit and all of that got wiped away. So then I was working with just the OTC kids. And I am praying, cross my fingers, I beg my principal, because some shifts have happened in timing that I might be able to go back and work with the little ones again. So I kind of had the best of both worlds off and on, and I just make the best and, roll with the punches and do what needs to be done, but I'm always doing what I love. So whether it's 18 to 21 or kindergarten through fifth grade, or throw in a miserable middle school class in there, they're my least favorite. Middle school's tough. I feel bad for those kids. It's rough. But
how do you find advocacy work within the public school system in terms of music therapy, but also music education? And what have you found to be really helpful? And
I'll say that I'm the best kept secret in the Buffalo Public Schools. Oh, we have a music therapist? Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm ignored a lot, and I have done a little bit of advocacy. I've done a few individuals, which I think has come through with the advocacy, where some parent really speaks up and says, I want music therapy. So then I get an individual that I've worked with, but that's probably, it's been years since I've had one. I still think there's this misconception that music teachers can work with individuals with disabilities. And I know that when I go into the elementary schools, and those elementary schools get regular music, and they say it's much too difficult, they just sit there and they just kind of are lumps. And, that what I do with them is so different. And so they want me back. They want me to come because they know that the music making that we do is much more involved and integrated. I wouldn't say that there's much. And my fear is when I retire that they're just going to throw a music teacher in my position, so they won't get that. And I think that, I want to put out there, are there any dually certified music people? Because I've got the job for you. Or that they're just going to let it go and not have it at all for the students. And it just makes me really anxious that, they're going to lose that piece. So I'm in my own little niche, I'm in my own little world. And as I said, I did a presentation a few years ago at School 84, which is for multiply handicapped individuals that are much more medically challenged. And the music teacher that was there sat in the back row, and, I knew who she was, and I would not participate. And I'm doing this for the entire school. So there was a lot of people in there, and like anything, I did some experiences, some music therapy experiences. And I talked about what it is that I do, why I'm doing it, what I'm looking for, what kinds of goals and objectives. And I could just see her in the back kind of going like, and it really, and I had a lot of teachers saying, well, this would be really cool. And I did not want to give them a toolbox of stuff that they could apply. And, so, because music therapy takes a professional to be done, and, it's the misconceptions about music therapy, I think, are also difficult, so whenever I get the chance to talk about what I do, and, I can go off on my passionate soapbox. But so, yeah, I can't say too much about advocacy. I'm just there. Somebody was insightful enough to hire me a bunch of years ago and believed in what music therapy was. Whether those people still exist, I don't know. At least in Buffalo, I'm not sure. It's happening elsewhere though, so it's a good thing.
Can you share a little bit about what you do for self-care, trying to balance your life a little bit, avoiding burnout, and how do you promote that as well for people that you might be supervising now that you have an intern? How do you try to promote that for them?
I think that, I don't know about self-care. When I've struggled in terms of something that's happened that I consider to be problematic or an issue, or where maybe I have not done my justice as a music therapist, I will go in and talk with the classrooms. We have a good support group in our program. We've always been a very close-knit faculty, and we are struggling as a faculty because now we're being integrated into a regular high school. And so we are struggling with that. That has been a huge change for us, and in some respects, not a good one. I love what I do. I love my new classroom. It's twice the size of what I had and has windows, which is wonderful. But the environment that I'm in can be very volatile. And I've realized that there's a stress level that I didn't recognize that has impacted me when I get home. Like you go through the day, you do what you have to do. And I'm thinking, but I'm anxious. And you can hear in the building when things are, not smooth. Like you can tell just the noise level, I've never been in a school where profanity is like, you just walk down the hall and where students can say to a teacher, F you, and that is very stressful. And so it's elevated my stress levels. And I didn't realize that. I finally kind of came to it this spring, and I'm thinking, why do I go home and just sit on the couch? And I think it's that psychological stress, because it's not working with my students. That's not where the problem lies. But the environment is different. I'm working on that self-care piece a little bit, just to give myself the break. It's okay to go home and sit on the couch. That's not typically who I am, but there's that. And then for re-energizing, I have to say, I went to conference for the first time because it was local in Niagara Falls in years. And that was energizing. And I didn't even go to a lot of sessions, but just being with your peer group and, talking, seeing students that I had worked with, like Jenna, putting a body to an actual face, and finding out what they're doing and, seeing their energy was just so much fun. I'm at the twilight of my career here, so looking at the enthusiasm of, the people, I think that's re-energizing. And anything I always do, I was like, oh, I could do this. The students make me, I don't know, it was, I think it was Jules who got me into boom whackers. I was definitely, boom whackers are a bummer. I don't like them, but they did some stuff and I'm like, okay. And there's a lot of so I'm like, okay, let's revisit the boom whacker thing. So, but I guess mostly the students. I think those are the things that keep me energized, challenge me.
As you look back on your career, what are some things that really stand out to you that you want to take with you through the rest of your career? And what kind of things come to mind as you just kind of reflect on your career so far?
Way back when I was just in the nursing home, there was a lady there who had I think just a very debilitating stroke and was basically bedridden and nonverbal, had no mobility, was in bed and was a young lady. And when I would go in, she would sing with me. And so for her family to see that little piece, that was very, very moving for me. In autistic services, it was a very challenging environment for me, and some of them were combative. It was okay. I did become, the focal point of, through not my fault or anything, just somebody acted out, and that was pretty traumatic. So that what I would say was my most traumatic. I like to say I'm an in-your-face therapist. I'm not afraid to go in and, touch somebody's knee or touch their elbow or be right there modeling or hand over hand, whatever needs to be done. And so every once in a while that backfires, but I'm much more aware of when that might happen than I was when I was, a newer therapist. In OTC, I don't know. So many things are just so amazing. I guess I've been doing it so long now with them that when I run into students who recognize me, or right now I'm some of the students that I worked with as little ones. I just had he was a little guy at one of the middle schools and he's like, Ms. Zilker, I know you, and just so excited to see me again, where it had been, 4 years or so since COVID, and now he's in high school and he's doing summer program with me. And I said, do you remember my name? You did music. And, those are really, nice moments. And, but we do a talent show and haven't done it for a while. I finally did one, and all of the red tape made me say, I'll never, ever do it again. It's too much. And yet when all of them came up and did their songs and did their performances, I couldn't wipe the smile off my face. And as all the talent shows that I had done before at OTC, the kids are so appreciative. The OTC kids are cheering and encouraging, and it's such a positive experience. I'm like, how could I not? Of course we're going to do another talent show. So yeah, lots of highs, not too many lows. There are a few that it just doesn't work for, but it's true with everything. So
yeah. Looking forward into the future of the profession, where do you feel like the profession is headed? Where do you think it can still grow? Where do you think are areas that it's growing currently? And what would you like to see change or build more in the future?
I think the credentialing is a great thing that's growing. I think that the inventiveness and the ability to incorporate technology into music therapy and all those things have really enhanced the profession. You know, the people who are out there who are incorporating hip hop music and doing so many cool things and performance things for individuals who, you know, have the skill set to be able to play an instrument. And I think those are really cool things. I feel we're making good strides towards recognition of what it is that music therapists can do and the benefits of music therapy. I think we still have a lot more work in that area. I just judging from what I was seeing, I think we're growing in compensation because music therapists work really hard and they have a really thorough education. And I'm not sure that the compensation was where I thought it should be, but it seems to be better than I had thought. So I'm, you know, at least that's a good thing. You know, if you do something you love, you ought to be able to earn enough money to live. And, you know, I know for me being a music teacher and being in the public school system, that's a cool thing that has helped me. You know, I think my compensation package just started out better than a lot of my co-therapists who were coming into the profession at the same time that I was starting. I think that that's better. I think we still need, I hate it. I hate it that we still have to validate ourselves as therapists and our skills and what it is that we can do. But there's some amazing people out there who are, you know, doing the work and, you know, getting the power of music therapy out into the public eye. It just seems like sometimes it's, you know, 2 steps backward, 1 step, or 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then, you know, it's interesting because that conference we talked about the LCAT credential in New York and how it has kind of backfired and what they're trying to do about that. And I've decided to let my LCAT slide. You know, because it's another set of coursework that I have to do. And it's like, nah, it's not. And it's not the profession. It's not the piece of the profession I'm working in that I need it. So it looked good on the end of my name for a while, but it's okay.
Well, I think that's all the questions that I have. Jenna, do you have any other ones?
I think that's everything. Is there anything that we didn't ask that you would like to say before the end of the interview, Nancy?
So what are you doing with it? I just said, Jenna said, I'm like, of course I will try to help out as much as I can. I get a lot of, you know, things for people who are doing research. No, that doesn't apply to me. I'm sorry, I can't really help you, but so what is your where are you going with this and what's the plan?
Yeah.
So, as we're interviewing people, it's going to be turned into a series that's going to be posted on our YouTube channel. And also, it'll be a podcast that will go onto Spotify as well. Just kind of trying to educate more about what is music therapy so that people know what that is. They get to hear firsthand stories from people who are music therapists. So, for people who might be considering services or just want to know what music therapy is, people who might be thinking about it as a profession or students, and also for music therapists to like expand our network a little bit more, because that never hurts to have
No,
more
doesn't.
people.
No, not at all. Cool. That's good. So awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was nice to meet you, Hannah. Jenna, good luck with anything. Anything I can never do, you know, don't
Awesome.
hesitate to
Thank you. We'll
ask.
see you around.